Hi, I'm Megan. I'm an English teacher and a mom to 2 teenagers, and I'm reading the Twilight books to talk about what I enjoy about them and what I think is problematic. Today we're going to continue to talk about chapter 2. During the beginning of this chapter, Edward ran off to the Denalis so that he doesn't eat Bella, and we get to see him laying in the snow, being broody for a while, talking to Tanya. He doesn't want to be with her, which is weird and uncomfortable for them, and weird and uncomfortable for us. Moving on, Bella is back at school having issues. She didn't sleep the night that he was a horrific jerk to her because she was dreading seeing him the next day. But then when he doesn't show, she says on page 24, it was worse because Edward Cullen wasn't in school at all. And on page 25, she says, I was relieved that I had the desk to myself, that Edward was absent. I told myself that repeatedly, but I couldn't get rid of the nagging suspicion that I was the reason he wasn't there. And then on page 31, she says, every day I watched anxiously until the rest of the Cullens entered the cafeteria without him. Then I could relax and join in the lunchtime conversation. These are not normal reactions. She's definitely acting like someone that has trauma from him and from the way that he treated her. And those descriptions of the way he treated her are very visceral. If you go back and listen to my videos about chapter 1, or if you look at chapter 1 of the book, you can see he looks at her like he's revolted. He looks at her like he wants to kill her. She's talking about how she's afraid of him. It's not pleasant. Edward comes back to school on Monday, January 24th. When Edward returns on page 33, Bella is unable to move. She's like stunned into like being immobile. She says, I looked down, my ears were hot. I had no reason to feel self-conscious. I reminded myself I hadn't done anything wrong. She even says that if he's glaring at her, she's going to skip biology class and feel sick to her stomach. And then finally she says, for the rest of the hour, I very carefully kept my eyes at my own table. And then since he didn't look angry, I went to biology. This is wild. This portrayal of her as afraid of him and traumatized is pretty extreme and doesn't make it seem realistic that she could be falling in love with him in a few chapters. No one should make us feel this way. And if they do make us feel this way, we shouldn't be falling in love with them. It's one of the main reasons why this chapter is seen as very problematic for the target teenage audience. It's not portraying healthy relationships or healthy self-worth or trusting your own reactions at all. Bella is constantly second-guessing herself. She's constantly experiencing self-doubt when she did experience this person being extremely hostile and terrible toward her, and he did scare her, and then like just very quickly it's like a whiplash behavior here. When they get to biology, though, he introduces himself as if nothing is wrong. We have the textbook gaslighting starting here, where she starts thinking she might be the problem. On page 35, she says, my mind was spinning with confusion. Had I made up the whole thing? He was perfectly polite now. I had to speak. He was waiting, but I couldn't think of anything conventional to say. And then we get to the really popular movie mitosis scene, which only continues to make me want to ask this girl what in the world she's thinking, as she says, I looked up to see him smiling, a crooked smile so beautiful that I could only stare at him like an idiot. And she still doesn't think, hey, maybe I should ask him why he was being so mean the other day. I get that he's a vampire and that he's drawing her in. There's like this magical element to this that keeps coming up in the book that I don't think is really translated as well in the movie. She feels this like magnetism to him, this like dazzled feeling. It's like she is overcome by his presence, and to me it does kind of feel like that control or autonomy is taken away from her, and that increases the problematic aspects of them falling in love super quickly because it almost makes it feel inauthentic. From an English teacher perspective, this entire chapter makes me want to use it as a paired text with the landlady, where we read this chapter and you like read the landlady, because Bella and the narrator in the story have no sense of self-preservation and are clueless, but also pointing out the super weird things around them that are happening, like him having ice cold hands and her saying that it seems like he heard her conversation at lunch in the snow, and she's even like, that's so weird. I don't know how he could have heard me talking about the snow. Yeah, girl, those things are weird. You should leave. But she doesn't. She just stays and gets pulled in by this like magic vampire stuff going on. And then during this class, Edward is also acting weird. He's leaning away from her. He's gripping the table like crazy. We know from Midnight Sun this is because he gets hit by like another wave of her smell and he's trying to control himself. But she doesn't know that, and her thoughts are unmanageable, she says, because she's so worried about what he's thinking about her. So basically, His behavior, again, continues to be kind of toxic, continues to be problematic, has now started crossing over into gaslighting, and that is frustrating, again, as a portrayal for teenagers from an author who's writing for teenagers. There really should be some like checks in this system to kind of explain why, she thinks this situation is different, because right now all we're seeing is this boy acting very toxically towards this girl, and she's going to start falling in love with him like real quick. So I'm going to cut this off here. I'll be back tomorrow to finish up with chapter 2.